Hi guys, it's Brooke here. I have a super quick favor to ask. When you have a moment, please take just a second to give this podcast a 5-star review. This will help me to continue the podcast and continue to bring these resources to the community. Thank you so much for that 5-star review.
We get puppies from the breeding co-op. So it's a bunch of service dog organizations that purpose breed the dogs. They've been checking the genetics and the health and the temperament for decades. We get our puppies at about 8 weeks old, and they will either go home with either a puppy raiser, an apprentice trainer, or a trainer. We have an apprentice trainer program because of our affiliation with Bergen University. When people graduate there, they can become an apprentice trainer for us and learn specifically how to train, really in depth, how to train an autism service dog.
Hey there, it's Brooke, and welcome to Finding Hope on the Spectrum, where I have heart-to-heart conversations with parents, professionals, and autistic individuals sharing personal insight and life experiences. Together, we dive deep into supports, programs, and stories that offer inspiration, insight, and most importantly, hope for the neurodiverse community. Before we begin with today's topic, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. And if you know someone who this would be helpful for, please pass it along. Remember to always stay curious, be kind, and have an open heart. Okay, I'm so excited about this week's episode. This week, we're going to be talking about something that is near and dear to my heart and something I think is so important to share and get the word out there. And so today we're going to be talking about service dogs, and this is just such a treat to have our guest on. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Laura, and we're going to dive into this topic of good dog service dogs and just share a little bit more about the value of service dogs, in particular for autistic individuals, and just how much important love and support that they offer. So today's guest is someone whose work is not only inspiring, but deeply impactful. And Laura Sylvester is here with us today. And she is the co-founder and executive director of Good Dog Service Canines, an ADI accredited non-profit organization that places service dogs with children who have autism and related disabilities. With over a decade of experience in service dog program development, accreditation, and family advocacy, Laura brings a unique blend of professional expertise and personal insight to her work. She's also a parent of a child partnered with a service dog. Since founding Good Dog in 2011, Laura has led the organization in developing high-quality training programs, placing over 86 service dogs, and creating free online resources that have reached thousands of families nationwide. She's been instrumental in achieving and maintaining international accreditation standards and has served on the ADI Directors Group and the Certification Review Committee. In addition to her work at Good Dog, Laura is also an adjunct professor and guest lecturer at Bergen University of Canine Studies, where she's been teaching since 2012. There, she shares her expertise in areas like nonprofit leadership, fundraising, marketing, and of course, all things related to service dogs and disability services. Laura's skills span curriculum development, parent and community outreach, disability education, and public speaking. Her work is a great example of what happens when passion meets purpose. And I'm so excited to have her here today. So welcome, Laura.
Thank you. That was quite the bio.
You have quite the experience. I think it's important even on this journey.
Yeah, well, it all came out of our son, getting our son a service dog, so who is now retired. So he's 15. So he's now living the beloved pet life. But the years that Elliot and Orbit were a team were life-changing, and why we started Good Dog.
Yeah, you've seen it firsthand and how incredible that it can be. And so I'm so excited for you to be here today to share more about that. And so for those of our listeners that really don't know about what a service dog is and what Good Dog Autism Companions is all about, can you just start us off with sharing a little bit more about it?
Sure. Service dogs are dogs that are trained specific tasks to mitigate a disability. So in autism, they can mitigate social challenges, sensory needs, dysregulation, focus, grounding, really help with independence. Good Dog Service Canines, we specialize in teams of 3. So all of our kids and adults are what we would call dependent. They live at home and they're teams of 3. So the parent main handler, the dog, and the child. There are service dog organizations that provide service dogs for independent adults. But when you hear me talk today, you'll hear me talk a lot about families and kids. And we have a disclaimer on our website. When we say children, we mean just, dependent. I'm sure all of our adults who have service dogs don't like me calling them kids, but Elliot's 25 and he's still my kid. So
Sure.
excuse that if you would. I just kind of a habit.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. So I didn't realize that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense with the 3 part. So having the parents as well, and I'm sure we'll talk about that, what that looks like with the training. But I think that's really important. That kind of differentiates you from other programs.
Yeah, we are the only ADI accredited organization that I know of that specializes in 3 people team. 3, I always say people. Our dogs aren't people. They feel like it. They feel like they are, but
Yes.
teams of 3 and autism. So most service dog organizations do other disabilities and do both, teams of 3 and teams of 2, but we kind of, I don't know. I always say for those of you in California, Arizona, we're like the in and out of autism service dogs. That's all we do. We focus on that. We do related disabilities because we found that so many of our dogs, the way we train them, can help other disabilities like Angelman syndrome or Fragile X or ADHD, Down syndrome. So we do related disabilities, but most of our clients that come through are on the autism spectrum.
Okay, great. And I know you mentioned that you started the organization because of your experience with your own son. If you could tell us just a little bit more about what inspired you to actually create this nonprofit.
Sure, yeah. Really, what inspired it was a friend of ours got a service dog for their son, and I just got enamored at the idea. We went to their graduation, and I just sat there in the ceremony just bawling because I grew up with dogs my whole life, and Elliot was good around well-behaved dogs, but very uncomfortable around non-well-behaved dogs. And I just didn't know if he would ever experience the unconditional relationship of a dog that I did. And in that graduation ceremony, I was overwhelmed with emotion that I think he could actually have that in his life, like I had, especially through my teenage years and stuff. My dog was so important to me. And so we applied to the national organization where they had got the dog, and we were denied. So I often say that Good Dog exists because of our rejection letter. Because I didn't know what to do. I remember I put the rejection letter on the fridge and just looked at it every day, this in disbelief. Like I didn't think that could happen. I didn't think you could
Right.
be denied a dog. And then I just started doing research, and I found out other people had service dogs that they had trained themselves, or others had hired trainers and done it. And then we found some trainers who were doing it, and we got Orbit for Elliot, and it was life changing. We had a moment at Disneyland where we just couldn't believe the difference in life with Orbit with us. And so we started Good Dog.
Isn't that amazing? That
Yeah.
things, when things happen in life and you don't expect it. And I remember I had a client years ago that was denied from another organization, and how devastating that was. And it was really emotional.
Yeah.
They had their hopes up and they wanted that so much. And then they were kind of at a loss of what to
Yeah.
do.
What to do. Yeah. So when Elliot was young, he used to love to go to Disneyland and we would go a lot. But Elliot's dysregulation, when he gets excited, he jumps and he flaps and he makes a lot of noise and, he draws a lot of attention. And usually that attention, unfortunately, is negative. And I feel like today a lot more people are aware of autism in the community. But, this was 20 years ago. No,
Right.
15 years ago. And we used to draw a lot of negative attention, a lot of rolling their eyes, comments about our parenting, things like that. But he loved to go, so we went. But the first time we brought Orbit with us to Disneyland, we couldn't believe the difference. I remember just as soon as we got there, walking down Main Street, and Elliot's excited. He's going to Alice in Wonderland. He's flapping his hands. He's jumping up and down. And the people in front of us just jerk their heads around like, what? Elliot can be quite loud. Jerk their heads around like, and just stare at us like, what is going on? And then they looked down, they saw Orbit. There's a dog at Disneyland. That takes your attention off of us. People will immediately look at the dog. They saw he had a vest on and that he was a service dog. They looked back up at us, they smiled, and they turned around and kept walking. And Rick and I looked at each other and we were just in shock at
Wow.
what a difference it made. And it happened all day repeatedly in line when we used to get looked at. Weird comments like we're the lucky people in the disability line, and just all this misunderstanding that the community has. It's not their fault, they just don't understand. All of a sudden all made sense, and everybody was kind and everybody was understanding. And Rick and I just kept looking at each other all day like, did you see that? Did you see that? And that night when we got home, we're like, this needs to be more accessible and available to families like ours. And then we just started the ball rolling and started a
Wow.
nonprofit, which I'm glad I didn't know how hard it was back then.
I love that. You just jumped in and you just
Yeah.
went for it. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Thank
Yeah.
you. It was
It's,
all because
it's
of our
fantastic.
guy.
Yeah. It's really amazing. What I think is so important is, and you never know what's going to happen in life. And the fact that you had such an intense experience right off the bat, that like repeated moments of success with this dog, it just solidified the value of it so much. And I just think that's so, it was meant to be. It's definitely meant to have that.
So many good episodic memories that
That's right.
I gotta bring my RDI language out for you, Brooke.
Right. I love it. Feel free. Oh, yes. And those memories are still lasting, right? They were such a high impact.
Yeah, and Elliot has gotten so much more affected by people's energy as he has gotten older out in public that if people receive him in a negative way, that's very uncomfortable for him and actually makes him more dysregulated.
Right.
And having the dog throughout his teenage years really, I think, kept him out in the community where
Yeah.
I think he would have really, and I know a lot of families that we serve, the teenage years, they kind of hunker down and stay home because
Right.
it's just so hard to be greeted in the world that way. And the dogs change it completely.
Yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense. And it makes me think of my dog when I have a golden retriever I was telling you about earlier. He's a therapy dog. And when I go on a walk with him and he looks like he's smiling, he is smiling all the time. Because golden retrievers are just smiley dogs. And everybody smiles at me. And it really does have an impact. And,
Yes.
when you're getting that kind of feedback from other people, it really does have an impact. And so I can completely relate to that, what you're describing. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about the difference between a service dog and a therapy dog. So a lot of people don't know what that is and they get confused. And so I think that's important for us to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times we get calls from families who want a therapy dog for their child, and we understand what they want, right? They want a service dog. It's just a terminology misunderstanding in terminology. So a therapy dog is specifically a pet that is trained by their owner as a team to provide therapy. So I have a friend, Stephanie, who went to Love on a Leash in San Diego, and her dog Rue and her are a therapy team. And they go to colleges on finals day. They went to see the refugees. They go to the airport to provide support for people who are scared to fly. So they just go around San Diego providing support as a therapy dog team. But that's the definition of a therapy dog, a pet dog that is trained by their owner to provide therapy to the community. And it can be in a lot of different ways. Like your dog specifically most likely serves the community that you serve, where Stephanie is out in the public. A service dog is a dog that is trained specifically to mitigate a task for one person with a disability. So it is trained to help one person, and that dog, a service dog, are protected by ADA law. So Americans with Disability Act law has service dog sections that protect that service dog and their person with all sorts of laws, including public access. So the biggest difference between therapy, companion, facility, all those things is that the only one that has the right to go in public, every place that this person with a disability goes, there are some exceptions, but most every place is a service dog because they come with public access rights via the ADA law.
Right. That makes sense. Yes. And that's kind of one little small note I would add is a lot of these service dogs, or I would say, I'll clarify from you, is that you're not supposed to pet the service dog if you see the service dog, versus a therapy dog is there to be loved on and to provide that kind of experience with the community.
Yeah. What we say is, what is the saying now? I can't remember it. Oh, obey the patch. So what we say is obey the patch, because a guide dog for the blind, you are not going to want to pet that dog. That dog its task is to be the eyes of that person, right? You don't want to distract that dog. But if you think of an autism service dog, some of what that dog provides is a social bridge to communicate and connect with other people. So we often tell our families that if they have a child that is not going to do well by someone petting their dog, they should put a patch on that says, "Do not pet." But if they are wanting that dog to be a social bridge, a connection to other people, they can add a patch that says, "Ask to pet."
Okay.
Right? So our rule always was, like when we're at Disneyland and we're headed to Alice and people stop us and ask if their dog, their kids can pet the dog. I will ask Elliot, or I know as his mom, we are beelining to the Alice ride. This is what we always do first. We are not stopping, right?
Yes.
But once we get in line, if the people in back want to chat and then, chat and be, social with us, then we'll say it. What we find is super important if the kids are able is that the parents facilitate the community members asking the child if they can pet their dog. Not me, the parent, is not the keeper of the dog. Elliot is the keeper of the dog, right? So then he gets to interact with those people if he wants to, and Elliot communicates on a letterboard, so you got to pull out the letterboard and ask. But then that is creating awareness and understanding of him and his disability, and really we as the parents have a big role in facilitating the service dog to make sure it works for what our child's goals are.
Right. I love that. That's a beautiful example. And I love that then he gets to get out his letterboard and communicate with that as well. That also provides great, information for the community, and the value of that type of communication. So even, just one thing leads to another, and it's just to create such a beautiful experience.
Yeah. And it's why it's a lot to become a service dog handler as a parent. Like, it's a big job, a big role, It's not like getting, you don't buy a refrigerator, plug it in, and now it's going to keep all your food cold. It's another living being that needs love and attention and, responsibility for you as the handler. And we really try to hit home with families that it is a big responsibility. Yeah. And really, the more work you put in, just like that example I just said, the more you'll get out of the dog.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's so important. And I know you shared some of the tasks that the service dogs provide. Are there any other areas that your service dogs specifically provide for the autistic individuals?
Well, it's kind of, if you met one child with autism, you met one child with autism, right? So you can have something as simple as a nudge command, which is a muzzle punch where the dog just, comes up and nudges you. And on one end, that might be stopping a child from self-injurious behaviors, where on the other end, the nudge might be that they're getting overwhelmed because they're public speaking, and the dog is going to nudge to say, hey, look at me, it's all good, and you go. So the same command has such different impact,
Right.
and people always say, well, how does somebody know when you nudge what the dog is like reminding you of or wants you to do or something? And the best way I can explain it is by explaining what it's like every morning when I go into Elliot's room and wake him up. I say, good morning, Elliot. And he doesn't say anything because he's trying to connect the neural pathways and his apraxia. And that's a lot. But if I just go touch him on his shoulder, he goes, good morning, Mom.
Uh-huh.
All it takes is to create that neural pathway is I tap him on his head, I tap him anywhere. And then
Yeah.
it comes right out. Hi, good morning. Like he just,
Right.
and the nudge kind of works that way. So you can say the dogs provide grounding and refocus, but that doesn't mean a whole lot unless you kind of explain the spectrum and the stories on how it works. It's
Yeah.
one of the challenges of autism service dogs, truly, and we hit this with getting donors and people to get excited about what we do, is
Right.
it's hard enough for people to understand the disability, let alone what a dog does
Right.
for the child. And it is it's so easy for people to understand what a guiding eyes dog does, or what a deaf
Right.
dog does, or a hearing impaired dog does, or what PTSD dog for a warrior does. But to understand what the service dogs do for autistic individuals, you have to understand the disability like at a kind of a deep level to get it. Like
Yeah.
we have a family right now who is fundraising for a successor dog, meaning their daughter was so successful with their current dog and that dog now needs to retire. So she's getting a successor dog and they're fundraising, and even members of their own family go, I don't know why she needs a dog. And to us that know, we go, oh, she wouldn't leave the house before she got Dude. Now
Right.
she went to illustration school with Dude. Now she illustrates books. She goes to book shows and book fairs and book readings. And Dude's right there with her because Dude takes the attention off her when they walk on stage. We understand it. It's huge. But even
Yeah.
members of their own family are like, yeah, she just better now. She can just go places. It's just a very hard thing for people who don't know our lives and
Yeah.
to understand. Really, it's kind of
Yeah.
been a challenge for us in storytelling and explaining.
Right. Yeah. Fascinating. Wow. Well, that's a beautiful story you just shared. I think that's what a inspiration. Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah, Alex. We follow her.
Yeah.
She's an inspiration for sure. And her and Dude have been a great pair. So
That's fantastic. Well, and I know we've seen those videos that have gone viral where there's a dog, I don't know if they're service dogs, but if there's a dog that will stop the self-injurious episodes, and how incredibly impactful and empathetic they are. So I imagine that the dogs, as they partner with their individual, that they just become in sync, that they understand their signs and, the supports that are, I've seen that with my own dog of, how when we went through the training, how quickly he started to become in sync with people in the community. And that was just a few little moments, these dogs are so intuitive. So
they are. And one thing that we explain to families in our program is that we don't train the dogs to ever do anything based on something your child does. So because we want the parent involved in deciding what the right command, what the right cue command is to give to see how it goes, right? So one of our families who the daughter has SIBS, they used the nudge command, but she ended up liking the kiss command better. That gets her out of her SIBS better is when the dog kisses her. So unless you're the parent kind of working through, try the nudge, see how that works, try the kiss, see how that works. In the beginning, you don't have all the data and information to then encourage in this case, the kissing when this, now that dog kisses her as soon as she starts. It doesn't need a cue anymore, but we don't train it that way because it's an evolution and a bonding and a relationship issue that you really want to hone so that it works to your best advantage for the success of the team.
That makes so much sense. And how special that the parents then kind of partner. That's kind of brought it to life, how the parents partner with the dog too to help. And so the dog learns a variety of commands, and then the parents are there to help kind of solidify for their child.
Yep. Our dogs go home, I think, with about 40 commands.
Oh, wow.
And what we say is if you don't use it, you lose it. But they don't always need all of them. But we want them to. Like, for example, what if you have a child who you're not sure if they're going to want the dog nudging them with their nose or not, but you want to kind of test it and see how they do when they're dysregulated and upset. How are they going to handle the dog coming near them, right? So we just have go to. We start with go to. The dog just goes near the child and sits down, lays down. It's just present, no touching. Now, some people don't need that. They go straight to the nudge because the child's ready for it. But we teach it so that they can go through the process of figuring out which command is best for which situation. The other reason we don't teach interrupting behaviors automatically is that sometimes what a child does at home is different than what you want them doing in public, right? So we believe that when our son is dysregulated, and he's told us this on the letter board, that he can't help what his body is doing. He can't help it. So we don't, as a family, stop that behavior in public. But other kids will say, Mom, I don't want to flap in public. I don't want to do this in public. And then that parent can tell the dog to nudge in public. But at home, the kid can flap all he wants because he's not embarrassed. We really want to respect our kids and understand their bodies and their dysregulations and what they want in certain situations. And the way we train our dogs helps our parents help the kids do it that way.
It's beautiful. I love how individualized it is for each family, that they get to customize the experience.
Yes. And also why it's a lot of work for the parents.
So much work. Yes, it is. It makes a lot of sense. And you really have to be in tune and reflective and mindful.
Yeah. A growth mindset. We often say, have a growth mindset if you're going to do this, because it's going to be a learning journey.
Yes, I imagine. Yes. And I was curious, as you were talking, I have had a client that I was hoping one day would get one of your dogs, and because of sleep challenges. And I was wondering, do your dogs help with providing sensory for kids that need that sensory feedback while they're sleeping? Do they sleep next to them? Is that something they can do?
Absolutely. Yeah. So when we match a family to their dog, then we have what we call a pack meeting where we talk about any customizing that you want. You can train a dog to stay on the bed all night, but most families don't choose that because if the child gets hot or the dog gets hot, they usually just want it to, kind of be organic. But we have so many families who the child sleeps in their own bed, in their own room through the night, because the dog is there with them. I mean, Elliot slept in a bed in our room until he got Orbit. And because if Elliot woke up in the middle of the night, it's that whole, I don't know where my body is in space panic thing. And he would wake up in the middle of the night. And if he woke up in his own room, he would panic so much that he'd be up for hours. When we moved his bed into our room, our king was like kind of higher than his, so he was like kind of down here. If he woke up in the middle of the night and I heard him and I just reached over and touched him, he'd go right back to sleep. So for the survival of our family, he slept in his bed in our room for years. And then we upgraded that from a twin to a double when Orbit came home, and Orbit started sleeping with him. And then within months, we moved that bed into his own room because he didn't need my hand on him, grounding him to say, you're good, you're safe, here you are. Orbit did that.
Right. I love that. That's amazing. I mean, that's just such another good example of the value and benefit of these dogs.
Yeah, if you are a parent that has not slept well in years,
Yes.
decades, it's huge.
This show is brought to you by Therapeutic Approach to Growth. Therapeutic Approach to Growth helps families with relationship and behavioral needs. Their holistic programs are individualized to honor and respect each family and their autistic son or daughter's sense of self through programs such as relationship development intervention, naturalistic ABA, and animal-assisted services. If you're finding yourself frustrated or discouraged with your current behavioral programs and would like to see more long-term meaningful growth for you and your family, then contact TAG today at www.tagforgrowth, that's TAGFORGROWTH.com, to learn more about how to schedule a consultation or how they can offer you the help your family needs, whether in person, remotely, or in a school setting. Again, that's www.tagforgrowth.com.
Yes, I think that's a really common story.
Yes. Yeah, we hear it a lot, actually. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so let's talk about the training process from puppyhood to placement. What is kind of your process? It sounds very sophisticated.
Yeah, and not my department. It's Chris, our lead trainer, handles all that. But we get puppies from the breeding co-op. So it's a bunch of service dog organizations that purpose breed the dogs. They've been checking the genetics and the health and the temperament for decades. We get our puppies at about 8 weeks old, and they will either go home with either a puppy raiser, an apprentice trainer, or a trainer. We have an apprentice trainer program because of our affiliation with Bergen University. When people graduate there, they can become an apprentice trainer for us and learn specifically how to train, really in depth, how to train an autism service dog. And what's different about our program is because we're autism parents, we don't have like a facility, a kennel where all these dogs go. They actually go live with families, well, puppy raisers, apprentice trainers, or trainers across the country in homes. So our dogs are trained in homes their whole time. Then depending on, it's a puzzle, you can imagine that we're always shifting, but the dogs will then go to a finishing trainer about 14 to 16 months old. So it's really important that we transfer the dog at least once during its training to see how it handles a transition, how quickly it's going to bond with its new person, because that's going to happen when the family gets it. They're going to have to transfer to a new household. So we see how long that takes and how the dog does, so we can advise the family what that's probably going to look like for them. Then the finishing trainer will finish the dog for 6 to 8 months. And that's when we have the pack meeting and we go over any special things that the dog might need to learn specifically for that child, any custom commands, or a lot of times it's about desensitization. For example, when Elliot got Orbit, he used to make this Thomas the Tank Engine squealing noise. It was really, really loud that would bother a dog if they were not desensitized to it. So we found it on YouTube. We sent it to the trainers, and then the trainers, super easy. You just make a party of it every time they hear it. You give them treats and fun, and you make it a party. And then the dog thinks nothing of it. We obviously, it wouldn't be something that would be decibels that would hurt the dog. That would be taken into consideration. But so then the finishing training happens. And then the people training starts, which is where Rick, my husband, is the director of family education and support. And he starts training the parents and the families on everything they have to know to be a service dog owner, which there is a lot of information. The laws, the benefits, the grooming, how to create a bond with the dog that is fully trained. When a dog comes home to you fully trained, creating a bond and trust with that dog is completely different than getting a puppy who trusts you on day one. So there's a lot of tricky transition things that we have to go over. Like the families really kind of go on lockdown when they first bring home their dog. They don't bring a lot of family over, and they really limit it, kind of like adopting a child. We were told that, oh, your transition schedule looks just like the transition schedule when we adopted Liv from the Ukraine. So very much just, really making the transition good for the dog and the family, because it takes a while. We say it takes for 6 months to a year to get in the groove of having a dog at home.
Wow, that is an extensive period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, just makes sense. It does make sense though. And how old are the dogs when they go home with the family?
Yeah, about 2 years. Sometimes
Okay.
sometimes a couple months earlier or older, but usually about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't take 2 full years to train a service dog. It takes 2 full years to train a service dog and for that dog to mature.
Yes.
Right?
That's part of it.
Yeah, it's part of it is the dog has to be in a mature place. You don't want them going through an adolescent period with the family.
Right. Yes, that's how my dog was 2 years when he graduated from the therapy program. And I can see that they need to be ready for that role.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And not all dogs are.
Yes.
Only
Yes.
about 50% of the dogs that we train make it to
Wow.
service good. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good point too, right? They have to be the right match for this role.
Yeah. Well, we only want dogs doing this job who want to be doing this job, right?
Of course.
And sometimes it's health reasons, although every precaution has been taken with the purpose-bred dogs for health, but you never know. Sometimes something might happen. Injury could happen, something. And then there are behavioral things like a prey drive or reactivity or fearful. We ended up with a release dog from our program who had agoraphobia. He just didn't like to go out.
Oh my goodness.
Just didn't like to be out in public, didn't like it. So we kept him, and he was our beloved pet.
Right. I bet he was a loving pet at home.
Oh yeah, I love it.
He was happy there. Wow. And how do you match a dog with a family?
We are so lucky. We use Bonnie Bergen's research in matching the dogs and the families together. So one of the things we tell families when they join the wait list and they get like an estimated time when we never know, but we don't match in wait list order. Like this dog's ready, this person's at the top of the list, because the matching is so critical. So we talk about matching like I'm so visual. So I think of a Olympic podium, right? You've got first, second, and third. So first place, and parents don't like this, but first place is the parent handler. It's going to be my personality as the dog's leader that matches best to the dog's personality. And that's something we plot on what we call a social styles grid that Bonnie created. And it's amazing because we want me to be a little bit more assertive as the handler, to be a little bit more assertive than the dog, but not a lot. And we don't want the dog to be more assertive. So it's a whole grid process. Then once we figured out which parents and dogs go together, then we go to the second place podium, where we're looking at the child's needs. Do they want the dog as a social bridge? Do they like a dog that kisses? We train our dogs to only kiss on command, but some dogs love it. So you might as well give it to a kid that loves it, right? And then we look at the family dynamics of the home. Are there a whole bunch is the family huge? And the dog is going to have a really social dog is going to have a hard time knowing who to bond to because this family's so big. Or we had a family in Alaska that they had to take a biplane to speech and OT because they lived in such a small town. Elliot's service dog, Orbit, would be like, yeah, no, I'll just wait here. Like he didn't have that adventuresome spirit, you know? So we look at all three of those things and then we match the best dog to the best family. So it's quite scientific really, but we've seen such amazing things with that matching process. You just know that the right dog is going to the right family. And I always say about our matching, one, thank goodness I'm not in charge of deciding who gets a dog because I couldn't do this job. I'd be like, I'm out. I'm not deciding who gets a dog and who doesn't. And then the other thing I always say is that there's always something bigger at play than us. Like so many times things have happened, like the one dog that was trained as a puppy with PPH, a partner of ours, who had been exposed to wheelchairs, was the perfect match to the one kid we had that sometimes needed to be sit in a wheelchair.
Right.
And it's always bigger than us. You're like, how did that happen? Oh, and this story, I love this one. We had a dog trained up at Bergen who uses a prison program. The one puppy that was trained in that prison program got matched to the park ranger mom who works in that same town. So she was allowed to go back to the prison and thank the prisoner because she has access to the prison because she's a park ranger. Like things where you get chills, you're like, okay, we're listening.
I know.
So amazing.
Oh my goodness, I love that. That could be a whole show of
right?
stories
The
like
matching of
that.
dogs, totally.
Yes.
It's so fascinating. And we are so blessed that Bonnie shares her research and what she's learned with organizations like ours so that we can use it because it's life-changing to get the right dog to the right family.
I love that. I had no idea. And I imagine what a cool experience to go through and witness and see how it plays out. And
Yeah, our whole team loves our matching week is a big deal around here when we have all of our meetings and go through all the kids and families and all the dogs. It's a highlight for sure of our year.
oh, it's so special. And how do you decide that a dog is retired? Is that just kind of at that point you realize that there's some certain things that the dog this is not ready to or not in that role anymore?
Retired or released? Like,
well, when you said that like Orbit's not a service, he's more of a pet now, right? At some point you decided
so he's
that.
Retired. Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure I understood the question. So we work with families once the dog reaches about 8 to say, how are they doing? How is their health? You know, things like that. Like Orbit's retirement kind of came gradually. When Elliot became a speller, he didn't need the dog as much. So Orbit would kind of go sometimes and not. And we'd be like, oh, it's the second trip of the day. He looks tired. He can just stay home. Then he lost his hearing. And then we, officially retired him. So families will, they're so in tune with their dogs. They know when their dog is getting older and it needs to. And then we provide the signs of that the dog is aging and things like that. And then when a child needs a successor dog, that's when it's really important for to work with the family because they have a lot of emotions with replacing the original dog, and the child doesn't want another one, but we know it's coming inevitably. And so there's a lot of, tender loving care that has to go around the successor, and it's much better for a child to still have their retired dog and get a successor. It's much harder if that dog passes away and then there's a lapse and then they don't have the dog anymore. So it's something that we didn't think about when we started, right? And maybe 2 years ago. So we were in 12 years in, we were like, oh, successor dogs are coming. What do we do? And luckily, so many of the ADI organizations where I have relationships now helped us figure out what to do and how to work it out and what it looks like. One thing where it did kind of impact us in a way we weren't expecting was successor dog families have to go to the top of the wait list. That's an ADI rule, and we all as parents agreed with that, right? You want somebody who's been used to the dog to not be without one.
Right.
But when we're a very small organization, we place 4 to 10 dogs a year versus some place like Four Paws for Ability who places 100 dogs a year, right? We're very small. So if we've got 6 people on our wait list and 2 successor dogs come in and go to the top, that could push down everybody like a year. Like it's a lot, So that's why our applications are currently closed right now, is because we've had 4 successor dogs go to the top of the list, and we don't like our wait to be longer than 3 years. Just too much happens, and so unfortunately our applications are closed right now because we can't, we just don't want to take on more families than we can serve.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Wow. I had no idea. That's a whole nother layer of complexity.
Yes.
Add to the program.
As we learned, it definitely is.
Learning as you go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the best way. Oh, and I think it's important to share, the cost involved in all of this. I know because they're trained so extensively that these dogs are expensive, and you have a process of fundraising. So I'd love for you to share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really overwhelming for families is to understand why a dog from Canine Companions is free, and dogs from us, families have to pay a fee for service or fundraise. Like, why is that, And the bottom line is they've been around for 50 years. Bonnie Bergen started it over 50 years ago, and they have a plethora of donors. They're huge. They're national. Yeah. We're a very small organization, and although we do fundraising, we can't come close to raising what is necessary for each dog that we place. So in our program, every dog costs $38,000 for us, approximately. It's all different, and that includes the fact that only 50% of the dogs make it, right? That's one of the reasons it's also very expensive, is we're trying for every family, because the rate's 50%, for every family we place a dog with, we're raising 2, right? If you look at it that way. So, but we have come up with, and we have amazing donors we have people who've been giving the whole time that we've been around. It's just super expensive. So we have families who pay for a fee for service. We've had families who've used self-determination funds here in California. And then we have families who need to fundraise. And we have an entire fundraising platform where we help families. Kimberly and Autism, a Good Dog Mom, we call ourselves Good Dog Moms and Dads. She was our fundraising director for years and created this amazing portal of ideas. And so we provide the tools and the coaching. The asking and getting donations is up to the family, but we have a whole program where we help them fundraise. And then when they get to a certain point, they can go into the family scholarship fund. And then anything we raise is dispersed among those families in the scholarship fund.
Okay, great. And now if somebody wanted to make a donation, how would they make a donation to your program?
They just go to the website and hit the beautiful orange donate button. So it's gooddogservicecanines.org.
Okay. Perfect. Yes. I imagine we want to make sure we get that out there so people can donate after hearing all about this amazing work you're doing. And of course, yes. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was kind of next steps. What is on the horizon for Good Dog? Any new programs going on and goals that you have?
Yeah, and thank you for asking. It's been the autism service dog industry has been very interesting to be a part of for the past 15 years. When we started in 2011, autism service dog organizations were popping up all over the country, and ADI organizations were adding it to the other service dogs that they provide at a rapid rate. And then it kind of hit its height. And now, unfortunately, it's been decreasing at a rapid rate. So a lot of those organizations went away. A lot of the smaller places that we saw popping up haven't stood the test of time. A lot of ADI organizations are closing their applications or shutting down their autism program altogether. I recently talked to ADI, and of the 28 programs that offer autism service dogs, only 11 of them currently have open applications. And I did this research myself, and things can change. So, everything can change. So don't quote me that this will be this way forever. But only 11 have open applications, and of those 11, 6 of them have very restricted geographical areas and also ages. So the amount of service dogs that are currently available to even apply for is a handful. Like, it is really, really sad right now. This shortage is very, very severe. I don't know if you saw it, but Rosie O'Donnell got her child a service dog from Tender Loving Canines, and she did a documentary on it. It's amazing. And I was talking to Hannah at Guide Dogs for America, who is Guide Dogs for America / Tender Loving Canines. And she said their applications went so through the roof that they didn't know what to do because they couldn't even process them all. So they shortened their age requirement, right? They instead of, I don't remember what the numbers were, but instead of an 8-year window, now it's down to a 4-year window where you can apply for a dog, because their staff couldn't even keep up with processing them. So we've been trying to come up with ways that we can help, because it is a severe shortage. One of the things that we offer is every month I do a free Zoom chat, where families can come and learn about all the different options of where to get a service dog and how to search the ADI website for organizations and what it looks like if you train your own. And because we're not even taking any applications right now. So we thought, well, at least we can provide information, because it does get overwhelming. And then some exciting news that I'd love to share is that we have a service dog trainer that trained for us that started an online puppy school in 2020. And I recently contacted her and said, what do you think about training? Could we use your model that has been so successful? Because they have helped like 150,000 people pet train their puppy. Like, it's been an amazing success. And I said, do you think we could use that for service dogs? And they said, absolutely, you can, and we want to do it with you. So we now have a partner for an online puppy training module, and we are creating a service dog finishing training module. And we are going to be opening applications September 1st for people who want to train their own service dog with a lot of guidance and hand holding. But you are responsible for the training, but you can start right away. The cost is less. And we just want to see if people are interested in it, and offer, even our families on our current wait list. I've met with them and said, is anybody interested in, switching over? Because the waits and the expense and the shortage is so severe right now. We wanted to come up with a new program. So you can watch for that on our website. We're hoping to launch we picked Labor Day because we're calling it Labrador Day as our launch day, September 1st of that new program. So we're excited.
Oh, that's so exciting. It's such a great idea, and just is a testament to that growth mindset you mentioned, earlier. You just have to have a growth mindset and see if you can solve this problem.
Right, exactly. And we're hoping we're really trying to concentrate on helping families decide which path is right for them, because some families are not suited for training their own. Our lives as autism families are already stressful and full, right? So we want to make sure we're spending a lot of time on our Help Me Decide page, because we're really wanting families to talk to professionals and hear from us with our experience before they just jump on board training their own.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's a great support that you're offering, and they can go through that process. And I'm excited to hear how it goes.
Yeah,
so
me too. It's in development right now.
Yes.
I will.
Yes. Fantastic. Well, I'd love to end just if there's, any inspirational stories that you have. I know you've shared some amazing stories thus far. If there's anything else, any kind of story that stood out to you with one of your dogs and just the gift that they brought that family.
Yeah. I think because it's so, it's new for us, the Successor dogs. We have two kids right now who recently got Successor dogs. And although they're both very different, their journeys are kind of similar. They came to us in junior high. The families came to us when the kids were in junior high. They both got a good dog and their lives blossomed. Both of them were homeschooled at the time because school was just too much. They ended up going to high school with their dog. They were able to. And now both of them just last year got a successor dog to go with them to college.
Wow.
So it's amazing to me, and so many other stories like that. When we meet them, the family's not leaving the house. They're just inside, and then the service dog gets them out into the world. But those two successor dog families it's pretty cool to me because they are flourishing in the community, and they're both at college right now with their service dog, with their successor dogs.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much easier it is for the families to make the decision to spend the money on a successor dog than it is the first time. They're like, oh yeah, here, write your check.
What's it going to take?
If college is expensive, so just add the service dog on to the cost of college. But hey, our kids are going to college.
Yes. I love that. Oh my goodness. It's such a testament to well-being, and quality of life, and that you're really having a high impact on these individuals' quality of life. And I just think that is so important, and it's just such a gift that you're giving. And
I remember one of those families when we visited. We were my husband and I both went. And occasionally, we'll make it a trip, and we both went. And we were leaving the house, and we had said our goodbyes, and we were headed out the door. And the mom yells, "Thanks for changing our lives!"
Yeah.
Like, sure thing.
So beautiful. It's so true. Yeah.
We love it. When the families share with us the impact that their dog has, we get it. Where other people would be like, so what? They went to the store. So what? They slept through the night, and we are like celebrating right along with them because we know how challenging life can be. And those little milestones are not little to families like ours.
No, nope. And it's not just the quality of life for the individual, it's for the family too.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, Rick and I, when we got Orbit, we had realized that we were in a pattern of one of us would stay home with Elliot and one of us would go to the store or out socially, or like we were in a habit. We were in a pattern of that. And then when we got Orbit, we realized, we could all go. We can, our family can go someplace, can go together, So it really does impact the whole family. Really, really does. And the older kids, if they have siblings, they can model the dog. And, that's one thing I do like about the train your own is in the full placement model, when a service dog comes home, we talked about that transition and how that transition the schedule's pretty strict. Like everyone in the family, except the main handler and the child who the dog is for, have to back off the dog, like protect the bond, right? They have to back off. That's hard for siblings to back off a brand new dog that just came home. But it really, really is something that we've seen. If you don't do it, the teams are not as successful. In the train your own model, the way the modules are made, the entire family trains the dogs. The entire family, like if you're teaching the dog to come, every member in the family carries treats in their pocket and just randomly calls the dog to come anytime and gives them a treat. Then the main handler, the one in charge of the training, when they call the dog to come, will then probably do a couple other commands and a couple other things. But everybody in the household has a role of just call the dog anytime you want and give him a treat. Like you have to watch how much treats the dog is getting, right? Like no kibble tonight, buddy, you've had it all. Yeah. But it really involves the whole family versus the full placement model really doesn't involve the whole family until you've had the dog a year. We don't want anyone else in the family interacting with the dog except the main handler and who the dog is for.
That's a huge difference. I mean, that has the potential to really bring the family together in such a beautiful way on this common goal and to be a part of that process. Yeah. I mean,
that's why it's so important for families to understand the differences, and what is best fit for their family.
Right. Oh, that's exciting. I'm excited to hear about it and see what comes of that program.
Us too.
Fantastic. Well, wonderful. Well, I know you mentioned your website, but I'd love for you to share it one more time, and I'm going to have it in the show notes as well. And I know that sometimes you partner with businesses too. I want to make sure to mention that too. I've seen that in my vet that you partner with at the Drake Center.
Oh yeah, we love the Drake Center for Veterinary Care. They fundraise. They've been with us since the very beginning, and they fundraise. They recently fundraised, them and their clients, for a Successor dog here in San Diego. Good Dog Show. Yeah.
I love that.
So we are so grateful for their support. They're wonderful. They've been with us since the very beginning. So they're our advisory vet. So they will help us out if we need second opinions about dogs' health and things like that. And then also they really involve their entire clientele in fundraising and helping families.
That's fantastic. Well, I imagine, is that an option for other vets or other facilities that wanted to raise funds for your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. We had another vet do a cookbook. They did a dog recipe, human recipe cookbook for a family in their area, and raised funds to help a family get their service dog. So yeah, we're always looking for partnerships that want to help our families raise the funds that are needed.
Awesome. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I'm glad we mentioned that. And let's have you share your website one more time. And again, I'll include that in our info.
Yep. It's gooddogservicecanines.org.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here today. This was such a wonderful conversation. I love dogs. I know how valuable they are, and my own life and with my own clients. And I'm just so grateful for what you guys are doing for the community.
Thank you. We love being part of this community and helping any way we can. So thank you for all you do for the community, for bringing hope to the spectrum.
That's right. That's what it's all about. Thank you. Well, have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm dancing on the edge again. The wind is calling my name. I'm dancing on the edge again. This time I'm not looking back there. You can change me, you can tell me down. I'll be echoes in every place I find. I'll break the molds with the rebel's mind. I'm a hurricane of free born mind.
The information provided on this podcast is for general informational purposes only. The content shared is based on the experiences, opinions, and perspectives of the hosts and their guests, and should not be construed as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment recommendations. The discussions and topics covered are intended to foster understanding and awareness of autism therapies, but are not a substitute for professional medical guidance. Before making any decisions regarding therapies or treatments, we strongly encourage you to consult with a qualified healthcare provider who can provide personalized recommendations based on your unique circumstances. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge and agree that the hosts, guests, and producers are not responsible for any consequences, damages, or outcomes arising from the use or application of any information during the show.